Roll for Crit here at PAX Unplugged 2021, and we got to take a look at a very exciting upcoming game from Prospero Hall and Funko Games, Jurassic World, The Legacy of Isla Nublar. This is the Legacy game, as the title might clue you into, based on the entire Jurassic Park franchise, stretching from before the first movie all the way to after the latest Jurassic World movies. It walks you through the entire history of the park and then allows you to create your own fun too. We didn't get to actually play it yet, but we got to see all the components. We got an overview of how the game works and got to check out and hear some teases about some of the secrets as well.
Now, I want to be clear, when we say all the components, we mean the envelopes. We did not open every envelope. We're not spoiling this game for ourselves.
Yes, they wouldn't let us dig. I tried to just grab them and run, but they had security.
Now, as we said, the idea behind it is that you're going to go through the timeline of the Jurassic Park World series, going through all the movies, including some of the other stuff. They mentioned also Camp Cretaceous, the TV show, has some influence in here as well. You will play as characters you may recognize, as well as some new ones. And the idea is each chapter is actually going to be, with the exception of the tutorial, played through once. So whatever happens, happens, and you'll keep going with the regular Legacy styles of removing things, adding stickers, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. Now, the tutorial I want to focus on because it's designed so that you actually have no Legacy components. There will be stickers for some things in the first chapter, but they want you to play through the tutorial so you actually understand things first, so you don't feel bad about any of like, oh, why did I put this building here? So they really allowed that to be replayable. Also, maybe a good way to maybe bring it to someone and see if they like it first and not. I really enjoy that because that way everyone really can make sure they understand what's going to happen without making a Legacy decision and then, of course, feeling bad for then 12 more games.
Yeah, you don't want to, especially with the Jurassic Park IP, there might be people coming to this who don't know what a Legacy game is, and you don't want them to all of a sudden be like, oh, I just messed up already, I didn't understand how that works. So it's nice to have that little section in there. And then I think most of the Legacy components that we know about is each scenario, of course, is a secret envelope, which is going to have tokens, new characters, all kinds of stuff in it, as well as new goals you have to complete, stickers and all that. And then each character also has special abilities you'll be able to unlock, and they have a name of those abilities, which is a clue as to what they might do, but you don't know what it is until you scratch it off.
With the claw.
Yes, the game comes with the raptor claw that he shows off in Jurassic Park, and that's your scratch-off tool, which is the best thing ever. I mean, I would buy this game just for that claw.
No, I mean, obviously, for a thematic standpoint, hitting out of the park, I don't think describes it well enough.
Yeah, it has a really cool, so each scenario also has like a comic book style scenario guide for you with some story and flavor and special rules and stuff. And they talk about how they did this old school retro artwork that's sort of like what they would have been inspired by in the actual movie, the kind of look and feel for not only making the movie, but maybe what the character Hammond himself might have envisioned for the park.
By the way, the tutorial is actually Hammond's dream as you're going to the island, hence why it's replayable.
That's right. You don't need to worry about anything in that one.
So this game, the way it works is there's going to be the island itself that you're playing on. You'll be placing buildings, fences, then it's broken up into different sectors. You'll be able to survey those sectors, and if there's dinosaurs there's cards that flip over and they'll tell them how they'll act there, whether they're going to move some way, whether they're hungry, if they're a carnivore, and whether they'll attack. Now, you can, of course, put fences between you and the carnivore, or try to manipulate the board in some other ways. However, there is a chance during the dinosaur phase, you'll lose sight of them, and you'll actually roll a die, and the dinosaurs could pop up somewhere else, causing havoc.
Yeah, so you're going to have to be managing that board state, and you're not always going to know exactly where all the dinosaurs are going to go or what they're going to do. They could fight each other, so that's going to be something you need to keep in mind, of course. Another aspect I really like is there will be buildings, of course. Some of them you'll be building over the course of the game, and when you enter one of those, each one is its own kind of mini puzzle that you're trying to solve for some of your missions. So it might be, for instance, they showed us a genetics lab, and you're trying to use different rooms in different ways to move those tiles around to form a pattern you need.
Right. The Welcome Center had more of a that get out of the parking, you have to slide different supplies around and get your different patterns. So depending on what your objectives are, you'll have to make sure you keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
And of course, depending on what goes on, there are all the legacy components. They said there are stickers for like fences. The buildings are going to be permanent, so wherever you put those buildings, they stay there. They also showed off boxes that contain more dinosaur miniatures, herbivores, carnivores, and of course, Woo creations. So very excited to see what those.
I'm thinking there's got to be the Indominus Rex in there.
But I'm sure they can do so much more.
Yeah. And of course, at the end of the game, you're going to have a fully replayable board. So once you finish the main campaign, you can go back and just do general standalone sessions with the personalized park you've created.
Right. So each game is going to be unique to how they set up the game. Now, one of the big things that we talked about with them that we really liked is the idea that when you play through a scenario, it is that one time, and you have to deal with what happens, and really makes it more about just going through the story.
Yeah, it's 12 total scenarios, I think, not including the tutorial, and they said each one roughly should take around 2 hours, depending on your group and how difficult it is for you. So there's a lot of gameplay in there, plus the end replayability, and yeah, it's nice that I think it's more interesting even if you fail, you just see how that takes you going forward.
But the way it works is you're going to have 9 action tokens, regardless of player count. And then
that's for, it was 9, I think it depends on the number of players, but for a 4-player game, it would be 9 actions, because it's 2 per person plus 1.
Oh, I thought it was 9 and then you divvy them up.
I could be wrong.
I
think it depends on player count, but the idea is you have 1 extra action than you need that anybody can access.
In addition to that, it's not that I go through all my actions, then Jonathan goes through his actions. We can actually discuss, so maybe it's advantageous to me, like, I'm going to move here first because I'm next to you. Then you do the trade with me or something. Then you do the run. Then I go again. So you can there's a lot more planning that occurs, but it isn't like crazy and too complicated that I think it'd be hard for them to understand. There's very nice actions, they got a nice card that like run, move, interact. So it's really all going to be about everyone at the table discussing what they think they should do, how they think it'd be best incorporated, because you can intersplice your turns.
That is the one aspect that I love it, and also I'm scared about it, because I do think that is the one area where it could really extend your game time with analysis
I think
paralysis.
They said that's where a lot of the game time came from.
Is if you have a disagreement, like there's so many possibilities of, well, I could do this and then you could do that, but maybe that will be fun enough that it works. But every other aspect of this, again, not having played it firsthand, but seeing what we've seen and based on what we know about the designers and creators, this does seem like it's going to be, if you're a Jurassic Park fan, probably the best Jurassic Park board game you can get, is my guess. That's my feeling about it.
The one we reviewed,
the Jurassic Park 3 board game from the 90s, pretty good. Good.
The preview page is already up, so you can register to get an email when that goes up. They said they're going to go live around, I believe it was March 22nd was the date they said. But they said they'd be able to deliver it by the end of the year, which I believe we talked about this in our Gen Con Funko video, how they have a lot of deals with some majors, so they have a pretty good job of getting things overseas, so I'm actually pretty confident that they'll be able to make that date.
Yeah, really fast turnaround. I mean, I think it is going to be one of the more expensive games, because it's a legacy game, there's a lot of pieces and minis in there, but when that Kickstarter comes around, it's something you'll want to check out. Let us know in the comments what you think about this upcoming Jurassic World game. How does the legacy style strike you, and how do you hope maybe they'll incorporate some of the different aspects of the films in there as well?
Let us know what your thoughts are, and if there's anything outside the films, like I said, the Cretaceous Camp Show, that you would love to see in there. Let us know in those comments down below. Till then, I'm Will.
I'm Jonathan.
And this has been Roll for Crit at PAX Unplugged.
Do us a favor, like this video, subscribe to our channel, or if you really like us, you can support us on Patreon. Become a high roller today for exclusive bonus content. We also have a podcast now. You can check that out at rollforcrit.com/podcast. Weekly episodes with special guests you definitely want to listen to.